Pulp Fiction has officially turned 30 years old, and as a film student and someone who just loves film, I felt it was very necessary to do a quick review and a tribute video to this amazing masterpiece. Welcome back to the Voiceovers Podcast. I'm 24K Logan. So, Pulp Fiction, one of the greatest films of all time. As a matter of fact, you can make a very significant argument that it is the greatest film of all time. Now, I know some might not agree with that, but I definitely think there is an argument to be made for Pulp Fiction being the greatest film of all time. I definitely have it amongst the top 10, really the top 5. And this came out at a time where the film industry was kind of going in a new wave. And when you look back on it, the 90s was I would say the greatest decade in film history. Definitely one of. And 1994, I would say, was the greatest year of cinema for the 1990s decade. And Pulp Fiction played a very significant part in that. And one thing about Pulp Fiction that I think makes it stand out compared to a lot of other films, the fact that they kind of shot the movie out of order in a way, but they were still able to make all the stories and all the chapters connect and come together in a way that ultimately made sense. You know, the dialogue, the humor and the action, or the humor and the violence combined, and the way you can go from a very intense moment to a very lighthearted moment all in one scene, or how you can easily make something that's very intense, very violent, humorous. That is what stands out to me and to a lot of people that have watched Pulp Fiction. And I think that is why it is such a beloved film to this day. And I would say that Pulp Fiction is also Tarantino's greatest film of all time. I know some people will say Django. You got some people that might say Kill Bill, Inglourious Bastards, Hateful Eight. Tarantino is one of the greatest directors in history. Make no doubt about that. But I would have to say that Pulp Fiction is definitely his greatest film of all time. I'm not going to say that he hasn't made a film as good as Pulp Fiction since it came out. I just think that with the timing of when Pulp Fiction came out, the year that it came out, and just how much of an impact it had on modern cinema and how much it still has, I just don't think that could ever be redid. And that's one of those films that I do not want to see a sequel to. Pulp Fiction is one of those films that does not need a sequel, a prequel, a TV show, a reboot, whatever. Leave Pulp Fiction how it is. One movie released in the year 1994, and leave it at that. Let us enjoy the movie how it is. Don't try to change anything, especially if Tarantino himself is not involved in it, which that wouldn't make sense anyway. I definitely do not want to see any type of sequel or anything related to Pulp Fiction. And let's talk about the cast. I mean, you got Uma Thurman, Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson, and his character Jules just so happens to be my favorite character in that film. John Travolta, Ving Rhames. You know, like, this movie is just timeless. Like, I can go on and on about how timeless this movie is, and the fact that it's been 30 years, you know, for the people who remember when it came out, I know y'all are probably thinking, damn, it's really been 30 years since Pulp Fiction was released. And my main point of this video, you know, was just to take a moment to pay homage to this film. Again, one of the greatest films of all time, and it's one of the films that inspired me as a filmmaker, as a film student, and as a writer. And every time that I'm, you know, thinking about an idea, every time that I'm doing anything related to this, I'm always thinking about Pulp Fiction. I'm thinking about the intensity. I'm thinking about the dialogue. I'm thinking about, you know, going from humorous to intense, or going from intense to humorous, making a a completely violent and outrageous situation funny. Pulp Fiction did a great job of doing that. I mean, we can talk about the scene, which is probably the most iconic scene in the film, one of for sure. The "Say What Again" scene, "What Ain't No Country I Ever Heard Of," with Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta. That was a very intense scene, but there's a lot of humor in it. The scene where Marcellus was chasing Butch, that was a very intense moment, but had a lot of humor in it. So, and this scene right here, the dance scene with Mia Wallace and Vincent, one of the most iconic. Some people would say that is the most iconic scene in that movie. So, again, just timeless film, man. There's a lot that I can say about it. I didn't want to go too long for this video, but if you have not seen Pulp Fiction, you need to see it. And if you are a filmmaker, a film student, this is amongst the 10, 20 films that you have to see in your lifetime. I think every filmmaker or every film student, every aspiring filmmaker has to see Pulp Fiction. You have to. It is, in my opinion, Tarantino's greatest film of all time. I don't think that will ever be changed. It is one of the greatest films of the 90s, arguably the greatest. And I would say it's amongst the 10 greatest films of all time. And you can make a significant argument that it is the greatest film of all time. But that'll do it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We have plenty of content on the way. Comment down below what you think about Pulp Fiction. Where do you rank it all time? Do you think it's Tarantino's best film or not? And do you think that we would ever get a Pulp Fiction in this day and age? Or will we ever have something that could surpass Pulp Fiction? I would say no, but let me know down in the comments what y'all think. Thank you again so much for watching, and until next time, peace and love to everybody.